The Church in the British Isles will only begin to grow when she begins to again venerate her own saints, the Venerable Arsenios of Paros. In reviving the memory of the saints of the early Church in Britain, there will hopefully once again be an appreciation of the great history of the English Church, a renewed appreciation of these saints, their piety, and their contributions to the growth and holiness of this ancient and once great church. Some of the names will be familiar to you, most probably will not. Hopefully, with a renewed familiarity with them, we too will draw near to them. And hopefully, in venerating them once again, the English Church will in turn grow once again. In this second video, I want to continue our introduction in preparation for our dive into the ancient church in England. Videos, like I mentioned previously, on the English church with reference to the Reformation are pretty much a dime a dozen online. We're not going to talk about it through that lens. We're going to go further back into the first millennium, time of the undivided church, and of course the first centuries of the Christian church and its presence in the British Isles at that time. A second quote that got me thinking about all of this was one from a relatively contemporary Christian by the name of the Venerable Arsenios of Paros. And he lived from 1800 to 1877. He was known as a confessor, but also an educator and ascetic, but also a miracle worker. Miracles are attributed to him. And he said, quote, "The church in the British Isles will only begin to grow when she begins to again venerate her own saints," unquote. And I'm not going to go into the various views on veneration of the saints at all here. Rather, we're going to just take this quote as it is, as one that would not have been controversial in the church from the very start. And for many, many centuries after that, not controversial at all, even in the English church right up to the point of the Reformation. But I found this quote to be a challenge and an exhortation and also a rebuke. I see it as a rebuke, of course, is if we consider the state of the English church, especially as it's expressed today in the Episcopal Church here in America. I see it as a challenge to those of us who adhere to, as best as we can, the practices of the early English church. And I see it as an exhortation for the English church in general today, which has its roots in the ancient Christian church, to heed this advice and to see it as one that is actually achievable and attainable. So this series is my small contribution to hopefully a fully restored, beginning the pathway maybe to a fully restored English church in that way, by heeding the words of Saint Arsenios and looking to the saints of the English church of the past and venerating them as well. So I hope this introduction will spark some interest in the subject, that we'll consider and remember those great Christian saints of the British Isles, and we will once again find a place to venerate them in our churches, in our services, and even in our homes.